How you doing? I am OFFAIAH. So recently I asked you if you wanted to see a tutorial and you said yes. So that's exactly what we're doing today. I want to show you very briefly some of the sounds that I use in treble and some of the plugins and effects I use on those sounds. So when I first made treble, I had no idea how successful the track was going to be. I first made it as an instrumental just to play out in DJ sets. And I had some YouTube videos lying around with vocals on them. I threw one of the vocals in there, that being treble, over the track just to see how it sounded. And I was amazed how well it fit the track. It sit over the piano and the breakdown so well. And treble was born. So with that being said, let me show you some of the sounds in the track. So as you can see, we're using Logic here. And let me play you part of the track first. So that's the tune. It's broken up into different segments. So we've got the vocal, the piano, some pads. We have the drums here in red and orange. We have the effects here in pink, the bass down in blue. Got some top line strings here, a synth, and then we have the riff at the bottom here in blue. So let's start with the drums and the kick drum here. I'll just solo that for you. It's a nice weighty kind of kick with some attack on it. And this particular kick is tuned to A, to the key of A, which works very well in this particular tune. And then the percussion, I'll solo that. It's made up of all these parts here. So we have a percussive loop here. And that's just giving it some rhythm. We have some hats. We've got two claps here. Sometimes I'll layer up sounds just to get like a better effect in the mix, which is what I've done here. We have some other kind of percussive effects going on here. And then we have some 16 hats here. And these 16 hats, as you can see, they come in and out throughout the mix just to vary it up a little bit. So all those drums together give it a nice groove. And this is just a case of playing around. So I'll start with the kick and then probably some hats. It's a simple hat like this one. And then throw in the clap. And then I'll probably just sit and play around with some different percussive sounds just until I'm happy with the groove. I mean, there's no like particular science behind it. It's just working on something until you feel happy. So that's what makes up the drums. Let's move down to the bass, which is this blue one here. So this bass is actually a tom drum tuned down, and it's made using this particular plugin here called Ultrabeat. And it's this preset here, Classic Techno Kit. And I've used the low tom sound and just tuned it down to, it says here G2, but it's actually F sharp because it's kind of detuned. So that's the bass. And some of the effects on that bass channel, we have an EQ here, which is filtered down to 626 Hertz. So what I've done there, I've just removed all the top end of that tom just to free up some of that range, so that other instruments like the percussion and the riff and the vocal, they can come through a bit cleaner. Because otherwise you're going to have too many things fighting for the same space. So you just want to clean it all up as much as you can. So without that EQ on there, you've got that sort of high-end sharp sound coming through. So it just takes it out of the equation. And then we have a limiter here, and that's reducing the volume by, it says here, around 4.6 decibels. So what that's effectively doing is pushing the volume up. So you start off at 0, and as you bring this down, the volume actually increases, because it never goes over a certain threshold which you set here, which allows you to increase the volume. And next we have an LFO, which is down here, which acts as a side chain to the kick drum. So on every beat, the volume will be dipped. This drawing here kind of mimics exactly what the amplitude is going to be doing over the course of one beat. So it starts low here and it increases as the beat progresses. So it allows the kick drum to come through. And I'll just play that together with the kick. So let's move on to the bass and the breakdown, which is this one here. And that is supplementing the piano. So I'll play them together. And in the mix, you can hear if I mute the bass, it sounds a little bit thin. So that kind of just warms it up a little bit. And then moving on to the riff, I'll solo that for you. This blue one here. And that is made using the preset from Massive called Every Cool UK Record. So what I'll do is I'll save that preset and I will give you a link in a description where you can download it so you can try it out for yourself. But this is the sound. And what I've done is I've recorded the audio of that, put it into this channel and chopped up every individual note. And the reason why I've done that is because I wanted to cut off the end of each note, because I found that if you listen to this version here, the reverb, which is within this preset, Massive, the reverb seems to bleed across each note, and it kind of makes the mix sound a bit messy. So what I've done is I've chopped every single note, and this is the difference. It's a very subtle difference. So I'll play it with that in the mix. And then the chopped up version. So it just gives it a bit of space. So let's look at some of the effects on the riff. We have an enveloper, which basically increases the attack on each note played. So you can increase that by pushing this up here. Maybe pull it down and do the opposite. And this has got some reverb recorded on it. And as the track gets close to that drop point at bar 145, the reverb increases to build a tension. And then cuts off at 145, which makes that drop, in my opinion, all the more satisfying. So I like to build up as much tension as I can before the drop and then release everything when it finally drops. So I've done that with the vocal as well here. Start from here. So this one here is the reverb. Which just cuts off dry at the drop, which kind of makes the drop all that more, it gives it more impact. Okay, then we have the piano here. And some of the effects on the piano. We have an EQ, and we have a lot of automation going on here. So this one here is the bass, and that's rolling off as it approaches the drop. And the reason why I do that is because I like to take away as much bass from as many different instruments as possible before the drop. So when it finally does drop, it has all the more impact. The high cut frequency is growing, which builds a tension across all these bars here. So it starts off quite low. As it approaches the drop, sounds like that. So it just gives the feeling of a build and again building more tension. Another thing which adds tension, which I put here, is this top line string, I call it. You can just about hear that in the mix. Again, helping to build up with the tension. And then coming down here, we have the effects. I'll just solo those for you. And in the mix. So if I mute them out, you can hear it sounds pretty dry. And with. So I like to give my track some atmospherics. So that's pretty much everything in the track. One final word I'll say is always reference your music to other people's music of the same genre, because you want to make sure that your bass sounds as good, your treble sound as good, and if you have a particular sound like a riff, it cuts through as well. Because so many times I've done a track, thought it sounded great, and you go to compare it to somebody else's and it sounds terrible. So always do that. It's a very simple thing to do and quite easily overlooked. So just make sure you do that. And that's pretty much everything for now. So those are some of the sounds that I used in Trouble. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you like this tutorial and if you want to see more of these kind of videos, and if you have any suggestions for further videos. I'll see you soon.